Hello everyone, welcome to the BEARR Trust webinar, the first in a weekly series that's looking at how organizations and civil society partners in Eastern Europe, Central Asia and the Caucasus region are working during the COVID pandemic. So we're kind of interested in different problems faced by people who are supported by organizations, changes in the working practices of civil society organizations, and also some of the innovations that are happening in response to COVID. So really nice to see a wide range of people on call, different locations, different sectors that they work in. So fantastic to see you all. My name is Michael Russell. I am both a trustee at BEARR Foundation and also a senior lecturer at the University of Lincoln. And I'll be chairing today's session and ably assisted by my colleague Louisa from the BEARR Trust, who I think you might see in the top left of the corner. Hi. So today we're going to go for an hour and a half. We have three great speakers from kind of slightly different fields of disability practice and slightly different geographic regions. So first will be Gulmira Kazakunova, talking to us from Kyrgyzstan, so already in the evening. She leads the organization Ravensto, or Equality, which supports people with a range of disabilities in Kyrgyzstan. We then go to Maia Shishnashvili from Georgia, who leads the organization Movement for Changes, supporting young adults with disabilities to have independent living as they become 18 and move into adulthood. And finally, we'll be going to Moscow, where Anna Bitova from the Center for Curative Pedagogy will be talking about their work in relation to supporting children with particularly psychosocial disabilities. The way it's going to work, each speaker has 15 minutes to talk. They each have some slides to give a little bit of insight and particularly photographs about their work. So the plan is to kind of take all three speakers together. So we have 45 minutes, and then that will leave us a good 40 minutes for questions and answers. If you will have questions, you're very welcome to use the put your hand up function, which I think you can find at the bottom. If you go to participants, and then you'll find an option to be able to raise your hand, or you'll notice that we have a chat box available where you can always record questions or kind of reactions to points made by the speakers. I should add, I should have started with this because this would be important. For those of you who prefer Russian language, if you look at the bottom of your screen in Zoom, there is an option called interpretation. And actually, this is for everyone. You should click the language that you want, either English or Russian, because some speakers will be speaking in Russian, but we do have a translator. Irina is with us in the background. Irina will be moving between English and Russian to ensure that whichever language is being spoken by the speakers, there is the translation available for the audience. So please click, everyone, please click yourself into either English or Russian. Then you probably won't need to click anymore unless you're interested in developing your language skills or hearing a different version. If you don't click anything, all you'll get is the original language spoken by the speaker. So that would be a mix of English and Russian. Two more practicalities. The first is to say that all the audience members have automatically been muted, which does sound like it's a lot of control. But if you do raise your hand or want to come in to ask a question, we absolutely will unmute you. It just helps to kind of keep the Zoom sort of quiet. The final thing to say is that we would like to record the presentation, mostly the speakers and the discussion. If you don't want to kind of be shown on it, then please feel free to switch your video off. It is nice to have videos on for people to kind of help with the speakers, and I can see, well, my screen shows me 25 great people, and well, even more when I flick into it. So but it's just to say, you know, obviously you're absolutely free to come in and out of the video as feels comfortable. The recording is basically because we have quite a lot of people who weren't able to join today and would like to kind of see what was discussed, because we've got such interesting speakers. So before we kick off, I'm just going to hand the floor to my colleague Nicola Ramsden, who is the overall chairperson of the BEARR Trust, just to say a few welcome words and introduce the organisation that's organised this webinar.
Okay, thank you, Michael. Well, good afternoon, everybody, and welcome to the first of 3 webinars that the BEARR Trust is putting on over this month. This is a historic first for the BEARR Trust, because it's the first time since the early 1990s that we haven't been meeting in London with speakers and participants from all the countries of our region. So I'm very sorry that we're not meeting in person, but I hope that you like this format, and I hope that you find it useful. We have 3 excellent speakers today, and thank you to all 3 of you for doing this. This is a busy month for BEARR, of course, because we're also deciding the theme of next year's small grant scheme. And I'm guessing that quite a few of you who have joined us today have perhaps had grants from the BEARR Trust in the past. And if so, a particularly warm welcome to you. Keep an eye on our website for further announcements on that. Anyway, I hope you enjoy this session. I'll now hand back to Michael for the rest of the webinar. Thank you.
Okay, fantastic. Thanks, Nicola. Right, so our first speaker is Gulmira Kazakunova from the organization Equality in Kyrgyzstan. Gulmira, over to you.
Хорошо, сейчас.
Okay, thank you.
Ну, давайте я начну тогда.
Okay, then I will start. As you know, I'm Gulmira Kazakunova, and I'm CEO of the organization Ravensto, or Equality for People with Disabilities. And I would like to thank the organizers, first of all, for this opportunity to tell you about our organization, about our activities. Thank you very much. So, our CSO, which is called Ravensto, will you be flipping the slides? Okay, then next slide, please. So our organization was established back in 2004 on the 7th of May, and it was initiated by 11 persons with disability. It was a local initiative in the city of Karakol. Our organization strives to assist people with disabilities, protect and promote their rights and interests, to advocate for them, and introduce the philosophy of autonomous or independent life based on human rights. Next slide, please. We work along different lines, so to say. One of those is coordination of the Central Asian network of women and girls with disability to empower women and girls to improve their self-esteem, to promote reproductive and sexual rights and health. And our network comprises 5 organizations from 5 countries of Central Asia. Today, unfortunately, we can meet only in 3 countries without Turkmenistan and Uzbekistan. We also hold peer-to-peer consultations. We studied this method in Japan, and we follow the Japanese methodology of this peer-to-peer consultations. Another area of our activities is offering trainings for women and girls with disability, particularly those who suffered discrimination or abuse. And we offer short-term vocational training courses for them in order to empower them economically. Next slide, please. Here you can see several pictures and we can just go through them. These are summer schools for autonomous life within the network of Central Asian organizations. The next slide, please. Every year, we carry out several activities. One of them is accessible country. So we monitor the accessibility of various infrastructure facilities. Next slide, please. Here you can see our walking march. Before the convention was ratified in our country, we organized such marches with wheelchairs or for the walking people. And we organized the so-called kindness lessons for the school children so that we could raise awareness amongst them why their peers, children with disabilities could not study in their schools. And here you can see members of the Central Asian network. Next slide, please. One of the pictures shows just this march. Next slide, please. The UN Convention of 2006 was ratified in March 2019, even though it was signed in 2011. Over these 8 years, we conducted advocacy rallies and marches to advocate for the ratification of the convention. Here you can see several of our marches or marathons showing that a lot of people with disabilities demand that the convention be ratified. Next slide, please. Here you can see that within our Central Asian network, we carry out photo exhibitions. This one is called I Am a Woman, and we insisted that they are just women as any other women and they have equal rights with other women. Next slide, please. Thank you. We also organize various artistic festivals for people with disabilities, showing that they have got talent and that talent is very diverse. Next slide, please. One of the areas of our activities is economic empowerment of women with disabilities, particularly those who suffered from discrimination or from abuse. And yesterday, we actually completed the course on cooking. 12 women and girls with disability were trained in those cooking courses. Thus, they can do that at home. They can sell their produce to the shops in the community and thus make their living. Next slide, please. Yet another picture from the very recent examination that actually took place yesterday, and these are the meals prepared by our women. Next, please. These are the pictures of the members of the Central Asian Network of Women with Disabilities. Here are the 3 leaders of the 3 countries with whom we cooperate in co-hosting activities. Next slide, please. And next. That's the national network, right? So every country that are members of the network will have their own networks, national networks. COVID pandemic has changed our work dramatically. Because of it, we couldn't open the beauty salon, and we wanted to place 4 women with disabilities in jobs there. We trained them at our short-term courses in manicure, makeup, etc. So we got a safe house for women and girls with disability who suffered from discrimination or family violence. And because of the reduced funding, we cannot now accept them in that safe house. We only have 2 women residing there currently. We also had to to stop offering professional or vocational education courses. We also worked in schools and universities, raising awareness about rights of people with disability among social workers, among teachers and students of both schools and universities. Unfortunately, today we cannot do that. And you will understand that online doesn't work in this case. We need to meet people to talk to them. Next slide, please. We had to reshuffle the personnel and to revise our approaches, and we started working in new formats, and we had to master new technologies, new languages, which is a challenge, of course, offering consultations and trainings online. It was fairly challenging to translate to or to transfer to the new platforms to the online formats, because the majority of platforms are in English, and we need additional training in English, and there was a language barrier, of course. Next slide, please. New needs of our organization. We discussed them with our members, and we concluded that we need to train young women with disabilities in new technologies, in languages, not only English, but also Russian language courses are required, because most of women with disability do not speak either English or Russian. And 3 days ago, 3 girls were about to be placed in jobs in a call center, but they couldn't talk with the clients in Russian, so they were not eligible for that job. So we want people who would be quite well prepared, will have all the necessary professional and vocational skills. And we also plan to train women with disabilities, both soft skills and hard skills. It is a demand of today. They needed to be economically independent, live autonomously, and we want to train them in working online, to be bloggers, to be copywriters, so that they could be more independent. Next slide, please. The impact of pandemic on people with disabilities was, as I said, dramatic. A lot of them faced huge challenges. The situation is in the country is such that the issues of people with disabilities are not at the top priority list. And the social programs of support to people with disabilities are underfunded from the state budget. More cases of abuse, discrimination, and domestic violence have been registered of late because of the situation. People with disabilities, because of the pandemic, suffered more, their health deteriorated, and accessibility of health services is now poorer than before, because all of the capacity of the health public health system is now focused on COVID pandemic and on pandemic control. Those people with disability are at the backdrop. They are not in the priority because they are treated as chronic patients. They are not in demand, and they just are people with disability. And planned surgeries and planned procedures were not offered to the patients on time, and a lot of people with disability died because of that. And as I said, their health deteriorated. And many people with disabilities suffer from depression, from poverty. They are disillusioned and frustrated. A lot of women and girls with disability became internal migrants. They came to the capital city to earn their living, but now there are no jobs. available. And if we've got some time, we can show the video. It's a 3-minute video.
Gulmira, thank you very much for your great presentation. Very well within time, so we'll make sure that there is time for questions later on for you. So would you just like to introduce the video, Gulmira?
Ну, это просто мы показываем.
We shot this video to show the PEARR counseling for young women with disability from different regions of our country, those who suffered from depression, and we are trying to assist them. This is for you to see how we do that.
Мы проводим консультации равных с равными, или еще их называют консультации единомышленников для людей с инвалидностью. Как мы знаем, у нас есть очень много предрассудков по отношению к людям с инвалидностью, которые мешают им жить полноценной жизнью, которые доводят их до того, что они самоизолируются, становятся пассивными, становятся неуверенными в себе. И этот замкнутый круг, он может продолжаться бесконечно. А мы посредством наших консультаций равных равными или консультаций единомышленников помогаем людям с инвалидностью обрести уверенность в себе, сделать выбор, чтобы они могли делать сами свой выбор. Консультации равных равными проводятся только среди людей с инвалидностью, потому что человек, который проводит консультацию, и человек, который слушает эту консультацию, они должны быть в равном положении, как по статусу, так по положению, по состоянию, чтобы было взаимодоверие между ними, и человек, который слушает эту консультацию, его называют клиентом, чтобы он, послушав человека, который проводит консультацию, которого называем консультантом, мог сделать свой выбор, сделать анализ своей ситуации и смог сделать самовыбор, а не следовать каким-то шаблонным консультациям или шаблонным советам. Эффект от этих консультаций очень большой. Человек, поменяв отношение к себе, меняет отношение к окружающим. Когда у человека изменяется отношение к окружающим, окружающие тоже начинают менять свое отношение, и происходят социальные изменения, социальные перемены. То есть люди в обществе начинают думать, почему люди с инвалидностью не выходят на улицу, почему они не становятся частью общества. И происходят социальные перемены, такие как начинается обустраиваться доступность в городе, начинается изменяться отношение к людям с инвалидностью. Люди с инвалидностью, как и многие другие, начнут работать, трудоустраиваться без проблем, получать образование. И все то, что происходит в жизни любого человека без инвалидности. Консультации равных равными мы начали с 2010 года, после того, как мы обучились на курсах повышения в Японии. Но в этом году мы сами стали обучать тренеров, чтобы новые люди, новые тренера с разных регионов страны проводили подобные консультации для людей с инвалидностью в своих регионах, в своем сообществе.
Brilliant. Thank you, Gulmira. Very interesting to see your work at first hand, and certainly, all credit to you and your colleagues for building one of the strongest disability rights organizations in Central Asia. So excellent. Now we'll head to Georgia and to Maia Shishnashvili from the organization Movement for Changes, which, as I said, work with young adults with disability to encourage their community inclusion and independent living. So Maia, welcome.
Hi everyone. Thank you for inviting me in this webinar. It's a pleasure. I will try to share my screen and show some presentation. So I'm Maia Shishnashvili. I'm founder of the organization Hand in Hand, which is called Hand in Hand, and provides support people with disabilities for independent living, and provides family style housing to them, and leads advocacy process of the institutionalization of the country, in the country. But right now I'm talking from the perspective of so-called umbrella organization, Coalition Movement for Change, which is founded by parents and parental organization. I myself am parent of child with disability, and I'd like to say a few words about this organization, which consists of several organizations, mostly from parental organization. Well, it's new organization. We started working together in 2014. Because we share the same value, the same vision of the future, and all of us think that people with disability has to be included in the society like others, and enjoy life, independent life. And we decided, after 2 years of working together, we decided to register of the organization officially, and we found that we think that, and we determined the mission of this organization, and which is to improve quality of life those with disabilities, and especially with intellectual and mental disabilities. And helped to fulfill their rights through promotion and development of high quality social, health, and educational services, the institutionalization, employment, and opportunity of independent living. Well, we decided to catch everything of our dreams and goals, and in this mission. So, as I said, the Movement for Change unifies several organizations, up to 15 parental-led organizations, and some of them are service providers as well. We do different kind of activities. We generally do consultations for people with disabilities and parents of people with disabilities or family members. We help each other, and especially new organizations in capacity building. We do service provision trainings or many different type of services, and generally and mostly we do advocacy for rights of people with disability. And I said focus is on those with mental health issues and intellectual disabilities, as we think that they are mostly neglected in our society. The pandemic changed our work dramatically, as previous presenters said, because we had ongoing project strengthening each other, strengthening parental organization or people with disabilities. I mean, through training, meetings, discussions, and we wanted to encourage them to do advocacy work, because there are not many people who are very strong advocates and activists among mental health, among people with mental health issues. But everything was stopped because early cases of COVID-19 entered in the country in February, and pretty soon schools were closed down in the first week of the March, and later on social rehabilitation or any kind of therapeutic services was also closed. So which left us, I mean, children and parents locked up at homes. We stayed there with fears, frustrated, and to be honest, when I noticed soon that some organizations could organize much earlier, but it took longer for us to come back again to work and continue to do something to help other people with disabilities. Maybe because we are parents, we were worried about our children, and it was difficult to work from home because we are only carers of our children at home, and it was very difficult to work at the same time. But anyway, later on, we realized that we need to do something. We have to fight for our rights because there was threat that newly evolving rehabilitation services could stay without funding because they stopped working, and those services, which are very important for our children and grown-ups with mental issues, could stay without very essential services. Like all those services like ABA therapy, floor time day centers, or etc., they stopped working. Therefore, government was thinking leave them without funding. That would be that would put them at risk permanently closing. And also those poor families, we were getting more and more information from poor families who were users of day centers, and where children not only go for special education, but also they got their everyday food there. So they also could stay without substantial support. And later on, when country was locked down, it was for 2 months, we realized, and that was emergency situation declared by government, and no one could go out. And we found out that those single parents or older parents and only carers at home couldn't go out and couldn't get enough even food for themselves and for their family members, children, or sisters and brothers. So we decided that it's no time being at home and just worrying, and we had to do something. We started mobilizing supporters from different sectors. We launched series of online meetings and discussions, and we invited the governmental sectors, international aids, and non-governmental sectors, other activists, not only parental organizations, but other activists, service providers as well, and some commercial organizations. And I'm proud to say that we could do that. We could. It was difficult to do it online, but we could unify them and we could achieve non-stop funding for service providers, which gave them an opportunity to maintain personnel and valued professionals for our children. We could provide food vouchers for day center beneficiaries who were dependent on those food. And also we started looking for people with disability, mostly state in needs and who need support from outside, let's say bringing medicine or basic utilities and food. And because there was no any basis for those people, so we created them and provide then referred and distributed those shared those space to different organizations like local municipalities or organizations like Red Cross or volunteer organizations who could visit those people, provide some food and essential things, medicines, and so they could survive in during this lockdown. But our special focus was right in the beginning on residential services. As I said, I'm founder also Hand in Hand organization, which provides, so far it's only organization which provides community-based housing to people with intellectual and mental disabilities and helps them in independent living. And we realized that although government was active doing something and some emergency activities to help any sector of the on the country, but we felt that people with disabilities are ignored. There was guiding for COVID prevention in schools or in different settings, but no one was talking about residential services. And that was at the time when in different countries, it was obvious that they were at most risk for getting infected from COVID-19 and getting unfortunately dying from COVID-19. And we've heard about cases in different countries when service people left those people, nursery homes, getting those people alone. So we were so nervous about that we could quickly organize work and started one of the big projects which was called COVID-19 Pandemic Preparedness and Response in long-term residential settings, and we could contact it to very high quality professionals in epidemiology, in infectious control, and we developed guideline how to prevent and control COVID-19 in residential settings. And different residential settings, I said that we are doing advocacy for community-based housing, but in this case, of course, our focus also was institutions as well, because there are large number of people who are living there in our country. So we elaborated guidelines. We advocated to the ministry that to accept this guideline and make it countrywide and obligatory. So we did it. We could change standards according this COVID-19 pandemic and responding COVID-19 pandemic. And we also created training models for not only personal for residential settings, but also later on we could modify, adapted those training models and provide it to those people with intellectual and mental disability. And we are still training them how to prevent COVID-19, how to defend themselves from COVID, like how to wear masks or what is proper distance. And this is small but essential things for defense themselves from getting infected. We did some training materials and also adapted training materials which was elaborated for general public. And also we supported, we provided emergency support to, but unfortunately only community-based residential service because our resources is limited. So we provided some medical and preventive aids and started small activities to decrease effects of social isolation. Because we are talking about people who were a long time socially isolated and lived in institutions and then moved to community-based services. So it was kind of coming back from community living and coming to isolation. So it was very traumatic for them, and we are still doing support for them. And this is just few pictures of trainings which is still valued and requested from different residential, not only residential services, but for actually families are also contacting us and asking provide those trainings to their children and grown-ups as well. And where we are now, what are needs right now? We realized that when we look through situation in the country in different considering different factors, that something improved over a time, but what wasn't improved at all, that is situation those people who have severe mental and behavior disability, because they are there is no until now they are excluded from school education. They are not able to participate even online education platforms. So they are stayed at home, isolated from their peers. And also, although some therapeutic services was opened, it was still problematic for people with people and adults and with profound and complex disability to attend those services, because they are at greater risk to catch the COVID-19. Therefore, they are staying at home. So from February until now, and we realized that we need to develop outreach programs and which would work supports those people right there at their homes because their conditions are worsening every day. And I can say that from my son's perspective as well, because he's among those people. We do not know how to maintain parents' mental health, because we found out that they're coming down as well. So that's it, actually, what I wanted to share, and maybe ask for recommendations. How do you deal with those problems? Thank you very much for listening. That's it.
Thank you, Maia. I think just like with Gulmira, it's been a very personal and professional presentation, and very interesting very important to raise awareness of these issues. Just to highlight, you absolutely can use the chat to add comments or questions. For questions, I'll make sure that we return to the ones in the chat when we then go to the plenary discussion after all presentations. So now we'll head, well, from Tbilisi, it would be north to Moscow, where Anna Bitova from the Center for Curative Pedagogy will speak. Anna's center is an NGO and has been the leader in pioneering inclusive approaches for working with children with autism and psychosocial disabilities for a very long time. So it's great that you could join us. Anna, I think Louisa will be showing your slides for you. I think. Yeah.
Good afternoon. It's my great pleasure to meet you all. I would like to start with saying that it was extremely useful for me to listen to my colleagues from other countries, seeing that COVID has wreaked havoc in many countries. Louisa, can we see my presentation, please? In our country, the isolation of the internet is a huge problem. We've got a lot of people with disabilities in the country, particularly in institutions. More than 1 million people live in institutions, and during the quarantine, with a very brief break in August, all the institutions have been locked down, and now they stay locked down. Next slide, please. You couldn't get access to those institutions, and you couldn't actually communicate with them. A lot of patients in those institutions or residents of those institutions got COVID. In Moscow, for example, spikes were observed in almost every institution, in the quarter of the children's institutions. And we had a program which is called evacuation, and we have several training apartments, and parents took their children from those institutions to their homes. So we, for example, hosted 9 people, and they stayed with us for 6 months almost. As a result, none of them got sick. All of them are alive and kicking, and that's very good. And importantly, none of them wants to go back to the institution. And that's a problem to us. So none of them wants to get back to the institution, and we are now thinking of how to keep them at large, so to say, how to keep them in their homes. Next slide, please. The residential institutions actually impacted the people. It was hard time. They were locked in their rooms. It was for the sake of their health, of course, but still, people were isolated. They got no information whatsoever. And some time ago, their parents started talking to us, requiring help and assistance. So we delivered this assistance to the institutions. So we put on the PPE, and our psychologists went to those institutions and worked with people, and thus we developed recommendations for the government, what needs to be changed. And this second wave,
То есть они сейчас следят,
actually
чтобы у
change
людей,
the
которые
habits
проживают в
and the
интернате,
behavior.
остался
Now
контакт с волей
authorities, powers that be,
и
are tracing the
онлайн и так
situation
далее.
in
То
the
есть и даже
institutions,
разрешают
and
нам с
they
ними
are
встречаться на
monitoring the
улице,
situation
но
there, and
один
they
и
even
один
allow
человек. То
us
есть, в
to
общем,
meet with them
нам удалось
one
воздействовать
by
на
one
правительство, и правительство
in
немножко
the
поменяло
streets, so
условия.
in the open
Немножко
air.
стало лучше.
So we've managed
Next,
to change
пожалуйста.
the attitude of the
И
government. Next slide, please.
И в некоторых интернатах
In
не
some
хватало
institutions,
персонала, и волонтеры выходили туда дежурить.
the
У
personnel
нас
was in
интернаты
great demand.
работают
There
в
was shortage of
режиме
personnel, and
2
our
недели. То есть
volunteers went
персонал
there,
не
so
ходит
the
туда-сюда,
personnel would
на
not
2
be
недели заезжает
coming
за
and
ковидом.
going. They will go there
И
for 2 weeks,
так, чтобы
for a
уменьшить
fortnight,
контакты. И
and
вот
they
у
will
нас
be
волонтеры
staying there
тоже
for a
выходили
fortnight. So
вот
our
такие смены,
volunteers had
чтобы 2
to
недели жить в
actually take
интернате
shifts
вместе с
there
ними.
also and reside
И
there for 2 weeks with the
ну, было прямо очень
residents.
важно их
And
поддерживать.
it
И
was
мы придумали
extremely
очень
important
много
to
всяких
provide assistance
активностей,
to them.
как
We invented
поддерживать
a lot of different
людей, живущих в
activities,
интернате
a
онлайн.
variety of events
Ну,
to
очень
support,
помогал
to boost
персонал
their
не во всех
morale, so to
интернатах, но во
say. Of
многих
course, in
персонал был
most
открыт,
of the
что с
institutions, the
помощью своих
personnel, they're very
телефонов,
open to
своих
new
гаджетов они
technologies,
давали
to new
возможность
initiatives, and
общаться.
they
И
gave
мы
us opportunity
каждую
to
неделю, по несколько раз в
communicate
неделю
with those people.
разговаривали,
Several,
показывали
they
спектакли,
even
читали
shared
книги,
their own
много
gadgets,
всего
and we
делали.
could talk
Next,
online with those residents.
И,
Next slide, please.
И, ну, вот я уже сказала, что
As I said,
волонтеры жили в
volunteers
интернате.
resided in those or lived in those
И
institutions for 2 weeks.
оказалось,
Next slide,
что
please.
у людей, которые живут в
And
интернате, вообще нет связи.
one could
То
think
есть у
that
них нету
people in
телефонов,
the institutions
большинства,
are totally
нету
isolated because most of them do
никаких
not have
гаджетов,
gadgets,
и
do not
они не
have
знают, что происходит. То есть
telephones, they
человек
don't know
запер,
what's going
и он
on.
не знает,
So
что происходит,
people
как
are
болеет, кто, что
isolated, they
происходит
don't
вообще,
know
когда
about
кончится.
the
То есть
infection,
вообще
about the
никакой
pandemic.
информации.
They have
И у
no
нас мы объявили
information
акцию, мы
at all.
собрали
And
большое
thus
количество
we
радиоприемников,
collected
и еще
several
собрали
radio
всякие вещи, которыми ребята могли
receivers
заниматься,
and
чтобы
different
они там
gadgets and
сидели, хотя бы слушали
different
радио
table
и
games
могли
for them
чем-то
to,
заниматься,
first of
рисовать
all,
там,
do
действительно
something,
что-то
to
делать,
draw,
потому что
to
это
mold,
очень
to
было страшно, что
play
люди
table
несколько
games,
месяцев
and to listen
сидят
to the
заперты
radio
в
because it
комнате,
was
вообще без
awful. To
занятости. Это
just
было вообще,
imagine
казалось,
people
просто
staying in the
ужасно.
locked rooms with no
Next.
information, with no
И
communication. Next slide.
семьи оказались в похожей ситуации. Москва
Families
очень
were caught in a very similar
жесткая
situation because in Moscow,
То есть нельзя было
lockdown was
выйти из
very
дома.
tough. You couldn't
Наши
leave your
ребята, вот,
apartment.
молодые, особенно люди с
And
психическими
young
расстройствами,
children
они
and young
просто
people with
вообще сходили с ума.
intellectual
У нас, к сожалению,
disabilities
даже одна девочка выкинулась в
just
окно.
actually suffered a
И
lot. And one
мы старались
girl
всячески
committed
поддерживать семьи.
suicide
Часть
by
родителей
stepping
болели.
out of her
То есть у нас,
balcony.
например, вот
So
эта
we
девочка
started
с
to
мамой,
support
которую вы видите
the
на
people
экране, мама попала в больницу
and
с
their
ковидом.
parents. And here you can
Волонтеры и
see
сотрудники по
mother
очереди
and
дежурили
the
с
daughter.
девочкой
And
долго,
mother
почти
was
месяц, пока мама не
in the
выздоровела.
hospital with
Нам повезло,
COVID,
мама
and
выздоровела.
volunteers
То есть семья
supported the girl
осталась
for a
в порядке,
month
да?
because she
И
had no one
дежурили с
to
ребятами.
communicate.
То есть
So
вот
we
это была очень тоже
were
важная
on
часть.
duties there. We took our shifts and worked with the residents, supporting them.
Наверное, пытались максимально занимать ребят
We
онлайн, потому
tried
что
to
иначе они не могли.
occupy them
Можно
online.
следующее?
Just next slide, please.
Zoom работал с 9
Zoom
утра,
worked
да,
from 9 in the
и до
morning
9
till
вечера.
9 at night.
Утром было
Just in the morning, we
совместные
would be
завтраки,
having some
потом там
joint
занятия,
breakfasts,
рисование,
then
с детьми,
certain
школьниками
classes,
проводили уроки
drawing,
онлайн, с
painting,
детьми,
artistic
там, не
design.
знаю,
Just
маленькими
with
игры
smaller children,
онлайн,
we
да.
played online
Трудно
games.
привлечь ребенка
It's
с
difficult
тяжелым
to
нарушением
actually
психики
engage
к
a person
телевизору,
with
но
severe
вот
mental
педагоги
or
просто
intellectual
самые разные формы
disability, but
придумывали.
social pedagogues and
Получилось
our
хорошо.
teachers
Практически мы могли
mastered lots
поддержать
of different
все наши
technologies and
семьи в это
techniques
время.
to support both
Очень было плохо с
residents and
деньгами,
their
потому
families.
что
Of course,
город
we had
перестал
financial
помогать. У нас есть часть, которая
shortage,
помогает
and
город денег,
the
а он остановил все
municipality
платежи.
ceased
Очень
to
уменьшились сборы
fund
благотворительных
these
средств.
institutions, and the
Тут мы
donations
обратились просто ко
also
всем друзьям и
dwindled. So
знакомым,
we
нам
had
удалось удалось
to
как-то
talk to
простоять это
everyone we
время.
knew
И
to
это
raise
было,
funds.
конечно, очень
And that
здорово,
was
и
yet
мы
another
смогли собрать
challenge, but
деньги,
we've
и центр
managed
не
to
закрывался.
raise certain
Если
funds,
можно,
and
дальше.
the center
Next.
continued to operate.
Вот.
Next one, please.
И вот, наверное, это
So
основное, что
that
хочется
is
сказать.
it. That's
Наверное,
what I
надо
wanted to
добавить, что
tell
все
you,
это
but
время мы
I
были на
want
связи с
also to add
правительством.
that the
Это было
government
очень важно.
supported us
Я
throughout
вхожу в
all
совет
this time. I'm a member of
попечителей в социальной сфере при правительстве Российской
trustee
Федерации.
board
И мы
at
практически
the
каждую
government of the
неделю
Russian
встречались с
Federation, and we
министерствами,
met on a
обсуждали,
weekly
что они
basis
не
with
делают.
the ministry,
Это было
and
много,
we
не
pointed
хватало
out
средств
to what they
защиты.
failed to do.
Собирали
We lacked
средства
PPEs.
защиты
We
для
actually
регионов, да,
collected
не
different PPEs
хватало,
for
не
different
хватало
regions.
поддержки семьям.
There was
В
no
общем,
support to families,
я могу
and
сказать,
we
что, наверное,
advocated
мы
for the
были в
families'
хорошем
rights and their
контакте,
interests.
и я надеюсь, что это
I would say
несколько
that we
помогло.
had good
Но
contact with the government,
и
and
мне
that was
кажется,
huge
что
help.
то, что нам, я бы сказала, положительного дал этот
And
ковид,
what we learned
это то,
about
что
from the COVID
стало
pandemic
понятно, что такие
experience,
большие интернаты,
or the lessons that
500
we've learned,
человек,
is
1000
that
человек,
huge
это
institutions
невозможно.
for 500 or 1,000
Там
people
люди болеют.
is
В интернате на 1000 человек
is not
болело
what works.
300 человек.
Actually, it's a
В
heightened risk.
интернате на 500 человек
For
болело
example,
200
when they
человек.
had
То есть это
500
огромное количество
residents,
людей,
they
которые
had
заражаются друг от
300
друга, потому
infected
что там
people,
общая
because
вентиляция.
they have
В
this
каких-то
ventilation
интернатах
which is
выключали
shared.
вентиляцию.
So
Там было
in some
лето,
of the
было жарко.
institutions, they
Люди
switched off the
погибали от жары,
ventilation,
было
but
очень
it was
тяжело.
hot
Да?
summer and people suffered because of that,
Нельзя
and they
большие
suffered
интернаты.
hot
Нам кажется,
attacks,
что
etc.
правительство
So
нас услышало.
I hope
Хотя
that the
сейчас
government
очень
heard
опять
us,
новая
and
волна, и опять очень
actually
тяжело.
we
Но
managed to
мы
convey our
надеемся,
message that
что
huge
мы максимально стараемся
institutions
помочь
are
всем
not
интернатам, с которыми
practical,
мы работаем.
and we
Спасибо.
still continue to support those institutions.